When we talk about computer programming and web development, we talk a little bit about how data is handled. Now, we had an example in the last tutorial of how we could add a number variable and a string variable, and we had an example as to what those variable types are. It's like a box where you could put a piece of data into. What happens if you have multiple pieces of data? Well, let's go ahead, let's add in something called an array. Now, if a variable is like a box, an array is like an egg carton. So we're going to say, we'll call this number array, and we'll make that equal to square brackets, and we'll just do 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You want to make sure that semicolon's at the end of that. So we have a number array, and a number array is exactly what this is. It's kind of like an egg carton where you can put multiple pieces of data into. So in this case, a number array will have all of these items here. Now watch what happens when I type in number array here. And if we look at this, if we go into the output, watch what happens. It just kind of prints everything. Now watch what happens if I add in that square bracket again. Now square brackets, if I haven't already mentioned, is the number one kind of signifier that we are in an array or that an array is present. This is almost universal across all programming languages. Not all, but most of the ones that you'll probably be using, whenever you see these square brackets, you know it's an array. So watch what happens when I put a 0 in there. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and of course run with JX first, and we'll add in 0. Now the way that this works is that arrays have what we call indexes. Now an index is kind of like this is the 0 index or the first index, the second, third, fourth, and fifth. But we don't really call them the first, etc. This is the 0 index, the 1 index, the 2 index, the 3 index, and then the 4 index. We start counting at 0. So let me go ahead and put in some kind of different numbers, here, so that we don't get confused. Okay? So this is the 0 index. This is the 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, when we go and we, for instance, and I'm just move it over here, see this number array? When we print the 0 index, and we hop back up here, it will print this one here. If we print 1, we move up, it'll print this one. So let's just see what happens. Okay, you can see that it does indeed print the 6 because it's 1 here. Now watch what happens. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, let's print 5. Okay, it says undefined. Now, we're lucky we're in JavaScript at this point because in other programming languages your program would crash. Accessing an array that's outside of the range is not good to do. Okay, now luckily JavaScript and a lot of web programming languages don't crash the program. They're just not very good to do. Okay, so here we have undefined. Luckily it just doesn't do anything. So we can go ahead and push 4 and we'll go ahead and print the last item. So even though we're saying it's 4, since we're starting counting at 0, there are indeed 5 items in this array. Now, watch what happens when I add in, kind of, well, let's just add in an M there, okay? So let's run that. And you can see that it works here. Now, you'll notice that this is a little bit odd. We have numbers and characters all in one array. Now, in most kind of programming languages, you cannot do this, but JavaScript is very forgiving and will let you do this. So if I added another variable here called string array, and add those brackets here, we'll just say, A, B, and C. So there's 3 items in an array, and I go string array, and let's print the second item there, or the second Here you can see it says it prints C. Okay? So it's good practice to make sure that your arrays only have the same number types in them or the same types in them. You don't want to be mixing and matching too much. You can, but it's confusing, especially if you have programmers that have worked in other languages.